What's up, everybody? Welcome to an episode of the Dink Show. Today, I'm talking to Chris Borders. He is a experienced lawyer in the blockchain space, helped Chainlink through their ICO, and is the legal advisor and legal counsel for a lot of the biggest Cardano projects, including Indigo, Sunday Swap, and Clarity. And today, he gives us some awesome perspective on, what his background is, what drew him to the blockchain space, what jurisdictions and corporate structures do you see as DAO friendly? And what are some of the most important things to consider from a legal perspective when setting up a blockchain enabled organization? So I really hope you guys enjoy this conversation. Chris offers a very, unique and intelligent perspective on the space. So I hope you guys enjoy. Thank you. Okay, hi Chris. How's it going? Welcome to the Dink Show, and thank you for taking the time to come on and chat with us today. And I guess first question for you is just to give the audience a little info. What's your background and what do you do?
Sure. I'm a lawyer by training, and what I do for crypto projects is mostly operations legal, help design and build the infrastructure to help projects be successful. My background is I've been lawyering for about 30 years, and I started in litigation, and I got into VC-backed tech in the dot-com bubble era, and then went back into litigation for a minute. Finally opened my own shop in 2014 to focus exclusively on tech. Took the red pill on blockchain in about 2016. A client that contacted me, they were basically a Web 2 company and trying to build some blockchain infrastructure for a banking system, Swift. And they needed help with the contract. And so I started getting education about services. So they were an Oracle services provider company, and they came back in 2017 and we formed Chainlink and did an ICO for Chainlink in the end of 2017, just before the government cracked down in December of 17. And I was it was a project of three of us, me and the founders, and then I was the general counsel there for a while into 18. After that, I stayed in my tech practice and went all in on blockchain projects at the end of 2020. After working with a couple other projects like Anchorage and a few Web 2 companies trying to get into blockchain. Right now I just work exclusively on projects as kind of an early team member, mostly DeFi and Cardano. Also, of course, the wonderful Clarity project. That's my practice. I love being on the bleeding edge.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's really unique to have a lawyer that partners with early stage projects, try to get them off the ground. So yeah, that's a really cool background. I guess one question I would have for you is, what drew you to the blockchain space, or rather, why do you think it is an important technology?
Yeah. I think we all have our own reasons, but you just see a lot of potential. I see a lot of potential in it. It has potential to eliminate intermediaries in commercial transactions, and there's a great efficiency in that, and more privacy and self-control, but also eliminates intermediaries in social structures too, by having a more direct connection of an individual to a project. We've all in the West grown up in representative democracy systems where, the best we can do is have 4 layers of abstraction from an important issue. And the potential of eliminating that, changing that, not entirely, right? Still representative government is still needed in some ways in DAOs and in real life. But that combination of things attracted me. And of course, it just seemed it's more efficient, it's more secure than the centralized structures that we are using in Web 2. So those are the things that really attracted me. I wasn't a DeFi, it wasn't the financial side that attracted me initially.
Yeah, that's funny. So a lot of people come into the space because they see the price speculation and they get caught in the hype. And I think, people like really deep in the industry, sometimes you hear them say, oh, I didn't come in because of the price action. And I'm the same way. So I actually had a class. It was a science and technology public policy class. And I was introduced to blockchain because, you know, I had this kind of this intuition where it was like, okay, like we have elections and then half of our population doesn't even think they're true. And then I kind of dug into blockchain more and I was like, wow, this could be a better source of truth, the database no one controls. So that's when I really, you know, swallowed the red pill for blockchain and kind of caught the bug. So it's cool to hear how you came to the blockchain space.
Well, you're wearing the
So
right on this call, because that's Chainlink Sergey is all about that single source of truth. That's really what
yeah,
he sees the ecosystem as being, and he's pitched that consistently since 2017. So it's really cool to see Chainlink growing where it is.
yeah, I guess I did choose the red shirt. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So you're obviously the advisor to Clarity, which is no code DAO infrastructure for Cardano. So the next question I have for you is, what is needed to make DAOs and DeFi grow on Cardano?
Yeah, Cardano, that's a two-layer question. What makes it grow in general and what makes it grow in Cardano. In general, we have to build bridges with Web 2. We have to be more active as an industry in working with regulators and legislators to build those bridges, because the regulated nature of Web 2, which has got all the money, is not going to change anytime soon. And if we want to allow Wall Street to participate in DeFi, then we have to find ways to satisfy the regulatory obligations of those entities. So, to me, I see some of the big centralized entities, Coinbase and the other exchanges, getting involved in regulatory things and backing some of the lobby groups. But we really need a higher level of consciousness about our need to think about the tech and how we can find an equivalent so that KYC, AML obligations can be met in for the Web 2 world. So that's, in general, that's, I think, the key thing to grow in DeFi. And, we've seen a lot of bad laws being tossed around now, a lot of bans on stable coins and other things, very reactionary, grandstandy things from legislators. And hopefully we can get more and more support of some of the smarter advocacy groups that are breaking the issues down. As far as growing on Cardano, Cardano's got a legacy of not generating a lot of products. This last couple months have been great because we've had Indigo launch, and then just the other day we had Indigo was the first stable coin with the IUSD, and then we had Jed launch from the Cody Group, and then Liquid just launched their platform the other day. So, for growing our Cardano, we just got to keep building. I do think there's some systemic hangups with Cardano, not to criticize the IOG group, but the expansion of the parameters has been too slow, right? It really has been, encouraging products to launch, but then products getting caught in congestion is just not working, or having blocks that can't handle the smart contract coding that that some projects want to use. Is something we can address, and I hope that IOG prioritizes its parameters expansion sooner. But overall, I think we're not going to attract investment or TVL from the Ethereum chain or a lot of ADA that's on the sidelines until we prove a stable ecosystem, sort of like Ethereum, where you can do different things you want to do depending on your risk profile and what you're interested in. So yeah, just keep building. Just keep building.
It's that simple, buildle. But with Cardano, I think one thing that's overlooked a lot of times is, it does have this legacy of products taking forever to launch or not even coming to fruition. But it started after Ethereum. We're not supposed to be all the way to where Ethereum is. So I think, while the timelines do get pushed back and it is frustrating, like, people are truly building. Like, I'm deep in the ecosystem. I see all these entrepreneurs. So I am excited about the outlook of the chain. I know a lot of governance solutions are launching. I know that there's more DeFi protocols coming soon, and tokenized portfolio type things. And there's a
Yeah.
lot of entrepreneurs in the space that are building cool tools.
I think it's great. I mean, to me, Cardano is kind of the unplowed field, right? So if you're going to build, finding room in the Ethereum chain or even other chains is hard. But in Cardano, it's building a stability, a very stable pool. It's nice to know that Cardano hasn't had any major outages or hacks. That the UTXO structure is better and does work. I think better than Ethereum type structure. So I'm not a coder, but I think there's a lot to be said for that. We all want it to happen a little bit faster than it has been.
Yeah, and I think the reason it hasn't happened fast is because of embracing that build fast, break things mentality that you often see in startups. Cardano's kind of gone the opposite of, they said, hey, we're about to build a global financial, governance and operating system and identity system. Like, let's make sure that this is bedrock so we can build on top of it. So I think that's an advantage of Cardano as well. And while it does take longer for things to come to fruition, I think the fruits of the Cardano community's labor will be seen sooner rather than later here. My next question for you would be kind of to double click back on that regulatory uncertainty surrounding DAOs. So, there's DAOs are completely transparent organizations that spend treasury funds based off community votes, but there's a lot of different use cases for DAOs. So from your perspective, what's kind of the what jurisdictions and corporate structures do you see as DAO friendly, and what kind of use cases do they cater to?
Well, DAOs are one way of organizing a blockchain project, or one aspect of the organization of a blockchain project. And, so it's really kind of a package. Obviously, historically, the Canton of Zug in Switzerland has been the lead welcoming site for all kinds of projects. The Ethereum Foundation is there, and several of the big projects. Liquid just started its foundation in Zug. So I think that's probably a solid jurisdiction. But if you're a U.S. developer and you're scrappy, it's expensive, right, to go into Switzerland. They have more layers. It also, their default structures seem to empower the board members of the DAO more over the DAO token governance token holders, the voters. So I'm not, entirely convinced of that. I've formed foundations in the Caymans and the BVI, and I think those structures work pretty well. They're not-for-profit entities. So the DAO isn't a thing you form, right? So we're talking about the entity, the wrapper that goes with the DAO, which is typically a foundation or an association, and that's how you kind of give the DAO life in a Web2 world. There are ways to have DAOs exist without any wrapper, but for a commercial project, an investment project, a social project, you almost have to engage with the rest of the world. This is back to building bridges to the Web2 world. You've got to have a wrapper, a legal wrapper to build that foundation. So forming a foundation in Zug has been honored, and they have a pretty good established way of working, but it is expensive to form it. Forming in the Caymans or BVI is pretty straightforward. And if your foundation entity is not making money from a decentralized finance project or other project, then you don't fall within the virtual asset service provider law, the VASP law, that the Cayman and BVI and others have. So it's a pretty solid jurisdiction. I have a couple entities there, so I like those. So those are the friendly places. In the U.S., you do have Wyoming and a few other states that have the DAO LLCs, right? Pretty untested, doesn't really get you a lot of benefits from being in the U.S. You still can't bank. There's also kind of a backdoor in the Wyoming DAO LLC law where they can withdraw your status as an LLC if they don't like what you're doing, essentially. And so that kind of exposes you, the token holders, a little bit. I don't know. They've been around for only a couple of years, and I haven't really seen them be put into too much use. But there certainly are jurisdictions, that the Wyoming, that are very friendly to blockchain technology. I've formed many entities in Wyoming for different clients over the years, because that it's just nice to know you got some people that have your back that already believe in this technology, rather than not knowing which direction the legislature may blow, depending on another FTX meltdown or something.
Yeah, that's a lot of good insights there. I think I talk to DAO founders all the time, and they're always asking, where should we incorporate? How do we be compliant? And it's a black hole a little bit right now. There's no certainty around what jurisdiction is best, how the legislation will evolve. So definitely appreciate those insights.
Yeah.
So
the key things to keep in mind are your overall structure, right? It really is key that you think about the right wrapper for your structure. Whether it's a for-profit foundation, or maybe it's a Wyoming LLC, but you have to have something that minimizes the risks of the token holders to being responsible for the project directly, liable.
Mm-hmm.
Or responsible for the tax that might be paid. That's one of the key things about a wrapper, is that it will pay taxes that some entity says you owe. There's no tax in Zug or the Caymans, but other jurisdictions may say you owe it, or the U.S. may say you're doing business in the U.S. and we want taxes paid on the portion of business in the U.S. And you got to have an entity that can have that conversation with the IRS and that can write a check once the DAO votes to give them the money. So it takes some walking through, and people should certainly get some counsel, or read up on the options, because that's the sort of foundational thing that you can't come back from, right? If you build your DAO poorly, and you have liability for everybody, or you're not complying with the laws of the jurisdictions you're in, you're really you're on the edge the whole time, and eventually one of the competitors in your space, because there's always going to be competitors, will probably put you out of business. And there's going to be a lot of consolidation in this space. So I think those that are built well will stand the test of time.
Yeah, I always this is like an entrepreneurial fantasy of mine, is to have these organizations you can spin up as DAOs that get automatically taxed, so that bookkeeping is autonomous through smart contracts. So will the IRS ever have a blockchain wallet where they collect taxes? We shall see. But
state and locals are already allowing that, getting paid with a digital asset. So and also overseas corporations, and that this isn't unusual. The U.S. Being the fiat currency of the world, is not the early adopter of a lot of things. So to some degree, what's going on in Venezuela, Argentina, Brazil, Singapore is the incubator for what the U.S. might adopt. So hopefully they're paying attention, because mostly those things are working, I think, for the governments that are dipping their toes in the water.
Yeah, the only thing constant is change, and blockchain will change a lot of things. It's a subtle shift of not having to trust these large organizations to do certain things, instead of having to trust no one and just knowing they'll be carried out. But it's kind of world changing. So yeah. I guess to wrap up, the last question I have for you. So what are some advantages you see for communities, groups, communities and groups that operate with a DAO structure? So why would you have a community operate as a DAO? What do you see as competitive advantages of that?
Yeah, I mean, I've run large organizations, soccer organizations, as we probably talked about, and communication was always, information distribution and communication was always a challenge. And I think if you get people trained to work through a platform that is their single point of truth, that you overcome that core challenge, and you have single points of truth, rather than what commonly happens in organizations that people don't agree on what just happened or what was written or what the rules say, right? I mean, you still have disagreement in DAOs, but I think that, addresses one of the semantic challenges or systemic challenges, I should say, of community groups and associations. I think also the connectivity. I mean, I think that there's, it's hard to get people to feel bonded to any organization or stay bonded over time. Peppering people with emails and things like that doesn't necessarily make them feel more connected. But being honest and letting them have a insight, transparency into the core decisions and the theories about those decisions, and letting them have a vote directly rather than through some sort of representative structure where they have no idea if the representative is listening to them or is listening to some larger stakeholder. I think is just fundamental. I mean, I think that is a really fundamental difference there. In the traditional Web2 corporate world, we have annual shareholder meetings where we pretend that the shareholders get to say what's going on and have a role, and they don't. The institutional investors have already decided who's going to be on the board, and you have to have a 15 or 20% interest to raise any challenges to what the board's direction is. And shareholders really have almost no direct control other than voting with their feet by dumping the stock. Right. So to me, a DAO it allows organizations, whether it's a for-profit business or something else, to be much more closely aligned to the true will of its members. And I think that's pretty attractive. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I think one thing that I really like with DAOs is I think they have a lot of potential to power grassroots movements, whether it's, let's say a political party that wants to raise transparently and have the people who donate to them understand where the money's going, or a charity that takes donations and wants input from the community. So I think that's really cool. But yeah, it's a slight shift in how truth is discovered and made and decisions are made. But I think that in the legacy system, you have too many situations where the few make decisions on behalf of the many instead of the many making decisions on behalf of the many. So that's what I think kind of the higher level perspective of DAOs really does cater to.
Yeah, no, it's more self-determination or more direct self-determination. And I think people accept the votes, right? If they feel like it's a transparent system and they can see the votes and they're recorded on the blockchain and you can see the wallet that voted, because so they actually held that number of governance tokens and voted, then you get past the, maybe you're going through the 5 stages of grief where you have a denial stage and you just jump past it, right? And just like, all right, now people don't agree with me. Maybe this group isn't for me. Maybe I'm not articulate enough, but it doesn't make you just throw up your hands and not vote. Like, 60% of the U.S. voting age population apparently doesn't vote very consistently. So
yeah.
No, I think DAOs are a great way to run things, and I enjoy it. And it's hard. I mean, a lot of people are, it's like, well, we worry about having too many minute votes for the DAO. We worry about people not spending the time needed to really think through important issues because they're not used to having important issues put at their feet to decide. So we've got a ways to go to figuring it out. But I love what Clarity's doing to bridge that gap, to create that dashboard and one space where you can participate in a lot of your organizations efficiently. So I think it's a great step forward.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest challenges with DAOs is finding ways to incentivize meaningful participation. And we have a lot of ideas surrounding that, but really a DAO without participation is, it's not even a DAO. You need, both in the eyes of the law and in practice, you need participation to run an efficient DAO.
Yeah,
I think that's an opportunity for DAOs as well. You look at elections that decide important things, and you see the participation rate is way down. So how can DAOs incentivize participation in these important decisions? So only time will tell, but exciting to be in the space.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's very cool.
Awesome. Well, thank you for your time, Chris. It's always a pleasure to chat, and excited to have the audience, see and hear your insights on this space. And thanks again.
Yeah, everybody just keep building. All right,
Keep
Logan.
building.
Keep building.